Can we open some of the curtains somewhere or not? Or
so I will.
Okay, no problem.
I will address the project that has been developed by the United Nations, UNICRI, with the United Nations Interregional Agency Research Institute for Crime and Justice. The colored gemstone jewelry industry altogether has figured out that just selling the gemstone to the public was not enough. I mean, you heard about transparency, you heard about accountability, you heard about ethics, and out there, at the end of the chain, there are people buying jewelry. If these people don't buy jewelry, they don't trust the product, they stop buying. If they stop buying, there's no money. So we are developing this project together with the United Nations and the civil society to bring along a mechanism in which countries will have empowerment on their industry and will be issuing certificates of origin by country of origin, not by deposits. Gems and jewelries is all about consumer perception. This is what makes the price, what makes the value. It is a perception by the consumer. It's not something you can eat. It's not something you need every day. You don't need to wear it. It's luxury. So you have a lot of marketing and publicity and images that need to be brought up before we get a value for a piece of jewelry and before we get a value for the gemstone that goes with it. Gemstones are not a commodity. I heard the words this morning by the ministry, commodity. It's not a commodity. There's not a fixed price for gemstones. Gemstone is just gemstone. Unlike gold, there is no universal value. You cannot go to the internet and see how much is the gemstone worth. It's like, you go to the internet, so today the ounce of gold is $1,600 per ounce, but you can't do that with gemstones. No matter whether it's emerald, ruby, sapphire, no matter. Unlike diamonds, there's no market commercial pre-evaluation. Diamond has a system in which you have an agency, a company, a private company, giving a evaluation of diamond because it can be graded very precisely. It can be defined into terms of it's always one color that we started with white and differentiating the different clarity of the white. They made clarification, which give an indication of what is the value of every diamond in the market according to the size, the purity, and the criteria. This is not the case for gemstone. Oh. What makes the value of gemstone? The rarity, the primary color's intensity for color gemstone, the clarity of course. This is basically, if you need to have that to have a certain value, to create an interest to the buyer. And in the end, it needs to be rare. If not, different gemstone will have different value according to rarity. Primary color intensity, clarity. What also makes the value? The creativity that will be made with the jewelry, the originality, the branding. It needs to be branding, branded the jewelry, the origin, and also the name of who sells. The consumer identification. Consumer needs to identify with the piece of jewelry or with the gemstone or with the origin sometimes. That fashion, it's all about fashion. And the luxury romance. What makes the price of any color if it's green? There is an agency that will Pantone. They come every year, they define the trend of that color next year in the fashion. If it's going to be yellow, you're going to see any stone that brilliant yellow go in price, and other gemstones in other colors will go down in price. This is a fact, and this is how it works. So now we've been lucky that the last 2 or 3 years green has been in fashion. So this is really what helped the emerald to go up. And in that matter, I can tell you Colombia is the largest producer. Prices have gone up because of the tremendous effort of marketing of one company, which is Gem Fields. They really, for Zambian emerald, they've done such an effort that no other countries have done. That has brought Zambia to the market. It's really branding, and it also has raised the price of emerald. So you're probably getting much more revenues of what you would have been getting if I had been under Colombia or Brazil only. Selling jewelry, you need to go to the customer. You need to go to a final customer. So it needs a lot of investment, a lot of publicity, a lot of marketing, and luxury. As I say, it's luxury, and luxury houses are usually who give the trend. They don't know who really have the largest number of customers, the richest customers, and everybody wants to look like the richest. This is a matter of looking rich and looking at where beauty and where valuable things. So I just give you a few examples. Van Cleef, Fabergé, that you may know that Fabergé belongs to the group that James is. So it's a tremendous investment that also brings to the next level the product. Without that, so it goes down from that point down. Manufacturing jewelry this is the step just before going to the retail. So you have different large manufacturing, small manufacturing. It is an industry. It is something that really takes some time to develop. It's not something you do overnight. I mean, of course, capacity building is, every producing country wants to manufacture jewelry. But if they don't have a local market, it's dreaming to manufacture jewelry for exports only. You only have a few countries that have achieved that, being Thailand, being India, and to a certain extent, China. But other countries, I mean, Germany and Europe are being completely outclassed now by the other, what we call the emerging nations in terms of manufacturing. But it has taken years and years and years. Before that, you need to cut. So you need to have, you have small, like you have different example of cutting. This is cutting emerald, as a matter of fact. This is in Colombia. This is in Thailand, and this is in India. Oh, well, not always like that. You have some more technified. So this is the step that goes before going to jewelry. You need to have a manufacturing of gemstones. That's the other level. And the first level, of course, is mining. But it all comes from retailing, from selling down to mining. If you don't have all these things that can be organized along the chain, you don't have mining. In mining, you have large-scale mining, like the one to the left, sorting, and you have artisanal small-scale mining. This is, I don't know if you have that in Zambia. You probably have that, but this is in other countries in Africa. And this is what you have getting the gemstones. As I said this morning, 80% of the colored stones are mined by artisanal small-scale miners, more or less like this, or a little bit more organized sometimes. But from what I heard in the emerald business in Zambia, I think only 10% would be artisanal small-scale miners. The other being K-Gems, and then Grizzly, and then probably the other company that we don't know yet what volume they do, and the rest would be probably the artisanal small-scale miners. Out of, say, $100 million of export, that would be, I think, genuine figures to consider for Zambia. 10 million would be for small miners, and 90 million for organized companies. So that is a different percentage from other countries, and for emeralds, of course. The probably is different for other gemstones. Other color stones may be different. You may have smaller values, smaller deposits. You may have more small-scale miners into that area than large-scale miners. But in high-value minerals, this is what happens. You have usually large companies holding the market. Colored gemstone, $10 billion is what we evaluate the market of colored gemstone in the world. 30% is rubies and sapphire. 12% is emerald, which is big, but it's smaller than the rubies and the sapphire. And all the rest, 58%. There's a lot of growth there. I mean, this is aquamarine, tourmaline, spinel, all those gemstones that are coming to the market in big value that are competing with emeralds. You know, the green garnet, for instance, going in price, going in production. Any of those stones are coming up. The big houses want to work with these stones. They don't want to work with emerald. Is not only, and green is not only emerald. It's also other stones. And this is coming in competition and also in value, in terms of value, in terms of marketing, in terms of acceptation, and in terms of looking for I mean, the customers are also looking for new value, new use, new gemstones, and the branding houses want to diversify their collections. Global emerald situation that I did this slide. Today we estimate 45% out of Colombia. The Colombian will say they have 60%. It's not true. It's probably between 45 and 50%, which is still a leader in the world. And the deposits are huge. The potential is huge. The companies are big. Mining is very serious there. It's been a tradition for centuries. 25% would be Brazil, and 20% would be Zambia, number 3, and 10% of the rest. The rest is small, but the potential is big. You have countries like Afghanistan, for the reasons of political reasons and other reasons in Afghanistan, they haven't developed their mining of emeralds. But the quality of the gems coming from Afghanistan is very good and the potential is very big. So in the future, you need to look at other areas that will be producing emeralds. So, you know, it's not that there are emeralds in Zambia and we are on top of the world. No, we need to really work to get better and to get in that picture in a better place. You know, Colombian emeralds get a premium price. I don't want to get into detail for that. It's because of tradition, because of history, because of marketing, because of branding, because of quality and sizes. Usually, Colombian deposits produce large size quality emeralds. So that has made a reputation. And for the time it's been on the market, it's been in the market for the last 500 years. So it commands a premium. If you go to the market with a Colombian, people will ask for Colombian emeralds before anything else. They're not always available and they're heavily treated. So marketing is very important, and this is why Zambian emerald has been very successful, because they've been marketed and distributed in a way that is giving confidence to the consumer. Colombia has lost the confidence at a time. Export went down from $550 million down to $100 million because they lost the confidence and made mistakes. There was a lot of loss. And it took years to go back. So you're on the right track, because you have not suffered with those things. Because companies that have really marketed the emeralds from Zambia have done it right. They've done it the right way. They've done it properly. They've done how it has to be done. And they've taken care of disclosing, of using the emeralds in their natural way, or using with the proper manner of enhancing the quality. This is the gem and jewelry supply chain the way it is. You know, we have at the retail level, the rules and regulations are simple, and this ethical trade already exists. So all of those houses and retailers already belong to a system that give them an image of being involved in ethics and being protected. They are protected by their own national laws and local laws. At the wholesale and distribution, the regulations are moderate, but there are ethical trade that already exist. I mean, wholesalers outside of the producing countries have already those rules. They are part of big association and already controlled or regulated in a way that they understand. They're closer to the market, so they really understand, and the rules exist already. At the manufacturing level, it is more complex because it depends when it's manufactured. It can be manufactured, you know, in countries where the regulations are not always checked on, it's not always audited, it's not always controlled, and then it's difficult. I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of the wage or the salary that is being paid instead of working conditions. So this is something that is now very visible and can have some issues along the supply chain. And at the mining is another thing. That is, the rules and regulation are, I would have said, inexistent, because there are some. We saw just a previous presentation about the regulation and transparency at a certain point, but it really is fragmented. There is no common language. You have every country trying to look into taxes, revenue, and the association miners looking to help, we want some aid, and it goes nowhere. There's no fixed rule. Everybody fights for itself without putting a regulation that really brings everybody on the same platform. This is what we've been seeing in many places. 47 suppliers of countries for gemstone. Not only, I mean, of course, I'm going beyond emeralds, but for gemstones. And you see, Africa now is becoming the largest continent for producing color stones. And so, I mean, see the concentration. Africa has the largest concentration for that. This is a complex and fragmented supply chain. We consider there's about 1 million artisanal miners. They're all informal. Sometimes, as somebody said this morning, temporary, because Mr. Betsch explained that after 2-3 years, or even sometimes even before that, they moved to another place because they couldn't find enough to make it economically supportive, and they found another place which was easier to dig, so they just moved to the next place. And they're difficult to access. Sometimes they can be very far in the bush or to locate. Sometimes they're in a place they don't want to disclose, they don't want to say where it is. And it's impossible to certify the site. How can you certify the site? That is difficult to locate. Artisanal mines, well, you know, they go to brokers, small dealers that go to local and exporters and other local cutters when there are cutters or other dealers. Then it crosses the borders. It goes to gemstone wholesalers, getting centers like Thailand, India, China. It goes into manufacturers, to retail, and the final client. And medium and large-scale mines go much more directly. They go directly to export. And they hit directly the market, usually hit the manufacturer. So it's a much more vertically integrated chain. And it's much more visible and transparent, and of course. But this, the left side, creates a lot of employment too, but it also creates a lot of problems and risk of corruption and of confusion and of chaos. This is what needs to be regulated. Many intermediary dealers are informal. We've heard that all day long. The government says that. I mean, the big brothers know that too. It's a problem, and we know that too. It's a problem. Informality is a problem. It's not a matter of getting the informal regulated. It's regulating the informality. It's not making. I mean, it's making them legal in a legal frame, which doesn't exist now. And once you get in a legal frame, then you can have a law enforcement. And then it can become really legal with sanctions, which is normally when it's, I mean, we've seen in the past that the enforcement is not there, and the laws are not clear enough and not adapted to the system. Multiple cutting centers, local, okay, again, it goes to many places, so this is part of the fragmentation of the chain. And we also have underdeclared exports. Exporters, I don't know how it works in Zambia, but I know in many places, if there's no trace where they got the merchandise from, there's no documentation of the transaction, they can put any price on the goods if it's exported. And then somebody said this morning it can be exported for 10 and it can be imported for 20. And where goes the difference? This is what we call money laundering. The advantage with the system of marketing that the big brothers have here and I've heard is that they go directly to a sale, and it's very clear. Once it's sold to the next step, which are the manufacturers, and there's nothing in between. So it's declared at the point of exit, and this is the same price it's been sold. Certification at point of first border of export. So because a lot of this, if you have at the point of exit a mechanism that certifies the gemstones that come from the country, then they become legal, because this certificate needs to be meaningful. It needs to have laws and regulations that are respected in the country. Most of the country already have the regulation. They are not under the same banner. So they're all disseminated with a misunderstanding of how they should work. Threats and challenges of the supply chain. So this is what studies have showed us in the last couple of years. There's a study that has been conducted by South Africa, as a matter of fact. It was financed by the South African government, the Russian government, and engaged by the platinum and gold industry. And it showed, and of course they went to the gemstone. It showed that mining laws and export regulation are not adapted in some producing countries, that we know. Lack of training, mineral identification, clearing, marketing, that we know. Fraud, fiscal and dispute treatment, and declared goods, smuggling, theft, money laundering, and corruption is what affects the chain. And in that instance, I mean, they've seen that the organized crime is moving, trying to put their hands into this kind of product, because it is easily transportable. They can put value from one country to another. They can move large sum of money doing it with diamond, but also seeing an opportunity, since our industry in Colorstone is not that well organized, seeing an opportunity to get into it. And this is what really frightens the big houses and the jewelers. They don't want any of this being advertised, or any NGO getting into, or any press getting into some scandal will be very, very harmful for the industry and for the gemstone industry. Lack of trade center, we discussed that this morning. What affects the small miners is there's nowhere for them to sell. So, I mean, I understand that here you need a special license to trade and to export, okay. But everybody should be able to get this license as long as they're registered and they have a market. No specific export procedures adapted to color gemstone. Well, here you have export procedures. I haven't looked into that, but this is what the project will look like, to try to find the best practice of the countries that are involved in export of gemstone and find an understanding between everybody to get an harmonization of the language and of the system. Child labor. This is something that needs to be, of course, addressed, because this is a threat. It doesn't happen. Maybe in this country, in some country it doesn't happen, but in some country it happens, and wherever it happens, it is always taken as an example, as a negative example by the press, by NGOs. So this is something we need to address. We need to eradicate the child labor from our industry. Now, what is the age of a child? This is something that can be discussed, and it's today, I think the mentality has changed. It's not 18 years. People understand that according to a country, depending on the level of education of structures, the age of working could be lower in certain countries than in other countries. But everybody agrees to what a child is. A child, 10 years, 12 years, it's a child. And no respect of environmental regulation. This is something that needs to be addressed. This is the threats and challenges that the supply chains need to address. The risk of the regional industry itself. As I said, the treatment that are in disclosed. You're not in that level here, it doesn't affect you, but it affects Colombia, for instance, it affects corundum, which they put beryllium, they put any kind of chemical transformation to change the appearance of the gemstone and make it look better. And if it's not disclosed, this is causing a lot of trouble and confidence. And it is a fraud to do that without disclosing it. Theft and corruption. There are thefts along, I mean, the FBI was trained last year. They has a special training program done by the GIA, precisely to go after the theft and big robbery. And there are some big robberies and fraud of people selling low-grade rough as if it was valuable and trying to get investors to put money into those things and just rob money. So this is something that needs to be curbed and attacked. Arm dealing, not the case here, but it's the case in other countries. It's been the case in Colombia, where I live, and then of course, laundering for drug money, this is the case. And gemstone is very easy for money laundering. So these are the threats that needs to be addressed, and this is why this scheme is being put together. Risk for the jewelry industry, also environmental damage. Child labor, as I said, the embargo, embargo, but this happened to Myanmar. It could happen to other countries. It happened just last week. The Republic of Congo was taken off the Kimberley process because of political situation that is not in the liking of the group that issues the Kimberley process system. So embargo is also something that needs to be addressed because it can harm a country very, very severely for the gemstone industry. And the working condition. The working condition is something that needs to be improved because it's a weakness of the chain. For the small game miner again. Objective. The objective of the scheme of the certification is to establish and enhance the commercial regulatory framework by setting up a chain of custody, which is based on the chain of compliance more than custody of the gemstone themselves. It's the compliance of the system. And we can focusing on country of origin certificates and traceability of colored gemstone. Those certificates need to be traceable. The parcels that are involved in these exports need to be traceable. They need to be kept along the chain. The mechanism will enforce existing laws and promote social and environmental responsible practices, which already, most of the time, are covered by existing laws, but it's just ensuring that those laws are enforced. The crime and fraud prevention, this is the export proceeds need to come back in the countries. Every penny must come back in the country. And also corruption money that can be used. The gemstone can be used to export corruption money. I've seen that in some countries. So this is also a way to fight against corruption. The authority and security of countries over their resources. With that kind of scheme and control and certification, if the chain of custody, the chain of compliance is broken, then the export license cannot be issued, the certificate of origin cannot be given. In that case, this is by giving this certificate, the country keeps the security over its resources because it means they control their resources. Branding opportunity for countries of origin. The day anybody following that into that chain with the system of certification they can advertise, they can sell with confidence a gemstone with origin from this country. They can sell. This is not happening today. They're selling emerald. They're not selling Zambian emeralds. The day the end of the chain are asking for certificate of origin, they will start selling Zambian emerald. They will be selling Mozambique tourmaline, or they will be selling not just Paraíba, not just emerald. And that is branding opportunity for the country. So issuing certificate of origin is something that really helps the country to get a better image, and it's a very cheap way of getting a good communication and a good image over the market, because this is a nice product. Luxury products are always very good for communication. So it's very good branding opportunities for the business, for the industry, and also for the image of the country. And the value creation linked to the economical, social, and governance performance. I mean, this is all about controlling the governance, controlling the economical and social levels of the country. Controlling or enhancing, improving them. So it's creating value. 5 keys of principle for the mechanism. It is designed for adaptability. It's not a fixed mechanism. It has to be adapted and adaptable. It's based on transparency. This is the basis of this mechanism is transparency. The burden of proof falls primarily on government and exporters, and ultimately on importers. You see, if you want to keep the chain as an importer, you need to keep the track of what it can, because if not, your certification has no value for a customer. Your customer is asking for it, you need to keep it for him. So when you import, you keep it. So the proof is exporter, who is controlled by the government, so there is a certificate that is given to the exporter. The burden of proof is government, who issues the certificate that gives the credibility, and also the importers the exporter who needs to do it properly without any fraud. But if a fraud is seen, found into that chain, then it becomes illegal, it becomes really a fraud that becomes a crime. And that crime can be punished and can be pursued internationally, because it really becomes a fraud. To this level today, it's not really a fraud. It is a fraud, but it's not punished severely. And the whole system, of course, is based on mandatory third-party audits, meaning that the system, once it's in place, before the country becomes eligible, it needs to be audited that things are in place, that they work properly, that are meaningful, that are according to a criteria that has been approved by the countries that participate, the civil society, and the private sector. The private sector is basically part. It's still a three-party. I've heard that this morning, I've heard that several times, and this is how things work. Industry, civil society, and government. Without the three, it doesn't work. And it integrates appropriate parameters for other systems. So meaning that anything that exists already in the Kimberley process or other systems that are being used in terms of transparency and traceability will be integrated. We don't want to reinvent the whole thing. It will be integrated into the system and adapted to the needs of the cornerstone, to the needs of emeralds and Zambia in that case. The mechanism will trace the product from mine, region, and country with a verifiable chain of documents, tracking and certificates from country and export points and beyond, ensuring ethical, social, environmental good practices, prevention of illegal practices, and illicit trafficking. This is basically what it means. So all what I've heard this morning, what we're discussing, is already part of this. This is the contents of that certification scheme. Result to be achieved: improved credibility, visibility, positive image of the sector, and value addition from mine to export and beyond. Enhanced competitive edge for participating countries. Reliable references, data, and benchmark. There's no reference, there's no statistic here. The project starts by doing an inventory of what you have and having a statistic system that shows in detail the type of export of stone that way, or minerals or resources that you have in value, in weight, and in destination. Increase sustainability of the sector by improving mining and living conditions, health and safety, good environmental and labor governance. It's very easy for big companies to do that. It's easier for them. They invest, they have the money, they know they have to comply, it's good for their image. But it's something that must be done with by the small miners in a way that can be achieved by them. So the system needs to include everybody, and it needs to be really a regulation and rule to be respected. Increase corporate social responsibility with opportunity within the legal framework. So all of this permits to develop social responsibilities initially because they come into a legal framework. And it's improved prevention of illegal practices, corruption impact across the border transit and beyond. So I don't want to explain that, you understand what it means. It increased government royalties and revenue taxes because it becomes visible. So if the chain is not broken, the truth is visible. And on that truth, this is the real revenue that the government needs to make, is making it on the real face value of the export. Okay. And beneficiaries, mining sector, including artisanal small-scale operators and communities, governmental departments and organizations, government, private sector, including processing, distribution, and retail. All of this instrument is beneficial for everybody. It is like a driving license. You know, you drive with a light. It doesn't mean that people will not speed up, or they will always stop at the traffic light. But you're not supposed to do it because you have passed an exam, you've been given a permit. And if you infringe that, then you get a penalty. You can be suspended up to that. So this is a way, a little bit like this. But if you use it, everybody trusts you, and the whole chain should improve. Concept and development. It assure added value, time frame accuracy. This is what the system needs to do. With its development of, which is the next 4 or 5 years, it focuses on both products and organization, and further and ongoing strategy development. This is what we're looking at the moment. Analytical framework, it will be based on normative document, the establishment of actions process, establishment of monetary body, definition of option and for financing and funding the project, which we are doing that at the moment with participating countries like Austria, United States, you know, donors country. You have participating countries as I mean, Zambia, for instance. Zambia is not in the list of the 8 first countries. I will explain why. Edification of role, responsibility, institution, procedures, and policy. Edification of capacity building, developers. Identification of traceability mechanism. The development of database and information management. The ownership, gathering, storage, and disclosure. This is all the contents of the project itself. Analytical framework of the key threats and challenges. The definition of key challenges to the credibility and sustainability of the system, and the definition of level of commitment for good practice in developing action systems. That is very important to classify and have a good understanding of those definitions. Project phase. First time is 1 year, it may be a year and a half. It's the inception, it's the assessment. So to collect information to establish a database of the situation of current gemstone sector in selected countries. Identify and evaluate existing measures and issues by desk, analytical research, and field visit. Prepare a working plan and set up advisory board, which is already underway. Advisory board is set up, it is expanding. Prepare working plans, okay. Development of master plan and project report to be discussed with all stakeholders. At the end of the assessment, there will be an international stakeholders 3 days meeting convened by United Nations, in which all stakeholders that are interested or have an interest in this project will be sitting and discussing to get to the next level and to find an understanding. 3 days discussion, 1 day to present, 1 day to discuss, 1 day to make amendments. Implementation of the project is projected on 3 years. It could be 4 years. It's something that really can take time. Establishment and implementation of guidelines and procedures for secure and traceable cross-border transit. Monitoring to measure the degree of compliance with the procedures and impact on illicit social, environmental, and trade practices. And the preparation of reports documenting the compliance rating and evaluation with the guidelines and procedures, the quantitative reduction of illicit activities, the respect of existing social and environmental norms, and evaluation of trade and ethical practices. This will be also ended by an international meeting, which will last another 3 days probably, to review the compliance and the level of functionality of the mechanism with the participating country at this time, which will be 4 years or 5 years time. At this now, okay. So the UNICRI is mandated to assist intergovernmental, government, and non-governmental organizations in formulating and implementing improved policies in the field of crime prevention and criminal justice. But they've been, for instance, acting on counterfeit, trademark infringements and counterfeit. And they've been contacted by the Russian Federation that was seeing the threats of the organized crime moving into the gemstone, into the gold. And this is why they started being interested in the project and came to us, ICA, say, well, what what do you think? Is there a need? This is why we're seeing those threats, and we need to do something about that. So we said, yes, we also want to do something about it. So let's work together, and let's develop the scheme. The goals of the UNICRI is to advance the understanding of crime-related problems, to foster just and efficient criminal justice system. This is the definition of the UNICRI, the support and respect of international instruments and other standards. So this is where we come. To facilitate international law enforcement cooperation and judicial assistance. The main topics is counterfeiting, maritime piracy, environmental crime, up to now. Now, if you go to their website, you'll see that I have gemstones and gold. The Vienna International Institute of the Vienna International Justice Institute is an NGO that has been created in that exists out of Vienna, and they acting as an independent source of analysis, assessment, and policy advice to governments, organizations, and the private sector. They will assist UNICRI in policy making and implementation of the project. It's in Vienna because it's been created by people that work with the former UN ODC agency, which is against corruption, laundering, drugs and things. Project supports. This is only a few. There's many more. Cartier, Bulgaria, you will know those names. They are part of the advisory board. Swarovski, Christian Dior jury, Louis Vuitton jury, Tiffany, Gemfields, of course, I've done. IC, of course, and True North Gems, another company out of Canada, and there are many more. I mean, I can't list them all because we would have many. It is just to give you a few. And this is the participating countries up to now. 8 countries have been selected. It was difficult to work with more than 8 countries for the assessment. It has been chosen according to their level of accomplishment and to what level or what kind of laws and accomplishment and establishment of a system of traceability and of certification in their own country. So we've selected Brazil, which already have done a lot of things to simplify their export system, to get a good understanding and control on their royalty, and really have boosted the gems and jewelry industry and the mining industry in Brazil. Colombia also have done that. Recently they have a new law that is controlling from the small miners up to the export point, traceability that are just putting in place. Burma, because they have a problem. Burma have been in a ban. They need to be more visible. They need to get into a platform, international platform, where they review their system and they adapt an international system which is visible and which is acceptable by everybody. Kenya have a border. They have a border problem with Tanzania in terms of origins of gemstone. They want to develop also their gemstone industry, and the Savo Park, the green garnet that is probably will get into we're one of the stones coming out on the market with a higher value in the next few years, and they're interested because they've joined the project at the government level. Madagascar, because Madagascar is one of the big sources of gemstone. The only problem with Madagascar is that at this time we don't know who in the government is legitimate in Madagascar. So we really don't have anybody to speak to. So, but Madagascar is one of the countries. So the United Nations don't go speak in Madagascar, but who do you speak to? That is a problem. Mozambique, well, the neighboring country, Mozambique has, of course, interest because their gemstone industry is very big, it's growing very fast, and they need to put their house in order. And we know that we need to bring these young nations in terms of gemstone along with the old nations that have really come a long way and get the best practice in a common language that everybody speaks and have a common understanding and harmonization of procedures. Sri Lanka has already done a lot. They have conservation laws that are working properly. They have a National Institute, they have laboratories, they have everything. Not everything is working perfectly, but everything is in place somehow. And they've come a long way. And they also are producers, like extractors, manufacturers, and importers. Mozambique imports from Africa, a lot of, from Mozambique, from Madagascar, a lot of raw material. So they have both situations. Extractors and importers and transformers, so they're part of the project. And Tanzania, Tanzania is halfway. They've started to develop a certification scheme for For the Tanzanite, whether it's good or not, that is another issue, but they're going into that situation. They're interested in joining the process to grant their country, to extend it in a better way to the other gemstones and to regulate it the best way in an international language. The next countries to come, Afghanistan, brackets, because nobody knows what's going to happen in Afghanistan, but they are very interested, of course. But this government, in 1 year, maybe this government will not be in place anymore, so we don't know. Australia is not a priority because Australia has it all. So of course they come in, but as they come in as a nation that has already regulated this industry, that has really made it simple for its exports, for its laws and protection, the environment exist and have been very well studied and they work properly. Cambodia is a country that is, it's not a big producer, but it will probably a transformer that will grow within the years because the United States have given the position of how do you call that? A country of, they're going to have special help and take all the taxes out from exports from Cambodia within the next few years. And this advantage is being taken out of Thailand, because they consider Thailand is not a developing country anymore, they're already a developed country. So that we know that Cambodia will probably get a lot of gemstones coming out, whether they live in Cambodia or anywhere else, nobody knows. But Nigeria has been a serious exporter of certain gemstone, but it's in the cows, and they really need to put their act together. And so this is a country that's come on the second batch of countries in the project. Pakistan, same problem, a lot of problem. Pakistan border problem with Afghanistan, different ethnies, a lot of hard conditions for mining. Russia are very interested. They have mining, they are importers and they are exporters. And it's well regulated on the paper, but it's not well adapted, it's not well respected too. Tajikistan, Vietnam, Zambia, here you are. So there's no time to come into the project. You can come right now as an observer. I mean, there probably may not be enough manpower for the first year to have teams from the United Nations to come to Zambia. But you can be invited to the forum and you can be present at the meetings. There's no problem about that. It's meaning the teams visiting Zambia in the first year may not be possible because of the 8 countries, the initial countries. And Zimbabwe. Then, the target participation from processing countries are, of course, China, India, and Thailand, which are the big power into processing, and their own markets are developing so much that their industry in manufacturing is going to grow in terms of processing gemstone and making jewelry. They will need sourcing, they will need raw material. You see, just let me give you an example. In China, you have 22% duty on cut stones. If you want to import stones in China, you need to pay 22% duty. Then you need to pay a trade tax of 10%. Then a VAT of 17%. I mean, unless you export rough to China, we are not going to make any business in China. And this is the fastest growing market in the world. Because it's just not possible. If you export rough, it's only 3%. So, associate countries, Canada, United States, USA, South Africa, and Russia, that are the participating countries today in terms of policy, in terms of regulation. They want to be involved, they want to see what's happening with the project, they want to participate maybe financially, but they want to be part of the policy making. And that's it, folks. I'm finished for today.